Do you want to hear something no one has ever dared to tell you? You're trapped. Yes, you. You're locked inside a prison of your own making, constructed brick by brick with every decision made to appease others, with every step not taken, for fear of failure, with every fake smile hiding your urge to scream. That tightness in your chest, it's not anxiety, it's not stress, it's the crushing weight of a life lived for someone else, a life shaped to please an audience that didn't even pay for a ticket to your performance. Here's the cruelest part. No one asked you to make that sacrifice. No one demanded that you surrender your freedom, your essence, your authenticity. You did it on your own. You shackled yourself to the expectations of others. You traded your identity for fleeting applause, for shallow approval. And now, when you finally look inward, what remains? What part of you is real? And what part was sculpted by fear, by insecurity, by the desperate need to belong? They made you believe control was the key. They sold you the lie that if you could just manage every detail of your life, everything would be perfect. But do you want to know the truth no one wants to admit? Absolute control is a myth, a mental trap designed to keep you busy, distracted, disconnected from what truly matters. The more you obsess over control, the deeper you sink into anxiety, into silent despair, into a life perpetually on hold, always preparing for a moment that never comes. Have you ever wondered why you feel that inexplicable emptiness, even when it seems like you have everything? It's because those things aren't truly yours. Your success, your relationships, even your thoughts are tainted by constant concern over how others perceive you. The more you chase external validation, the further you drift from your true center, that inner essence you once recognized but now barely remember. Michel de Montaigne, from his quiet 16th century tower, saw clearly what we still struggle to grasp today. Detachment is not indifference. It is the only path to real freedom. He understood that we are not trapped by circumstances, but by our compulsive urge to control the uncontrollable, by our fear of being disliked, by our terror of criticism. But what if I told you that detachment, the very thing you fear, is the key to your release? What would happen if you let go of that rope you've been gripping so tightly? The one you believe is saving you, but that is actually suffocating you? Because here's the paradox. The more you try to control, the less control you actually have. The more you try to please, the less genuine you become. The more you resist change, the harder it hits you when it inevitably arrives. The world does not bend to your will, and it never will. Accepting that isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Life, in all its chaos and unpredictability, asks something deceptively simple but deeply terrifying: to let go. To let go of your need for approval. To let go of your fear of failure. To let go of the false identity you created to shield yourself from judgment. Picture this. What if you stopped caring so much about what others think? Who would you be without that fear constantly looming over you? What would you do if you knew no one was watching or judging? The person you just imagined, that unchained version of you, is who you truly are. But here's the darker truth, the one that hides beneath the surface. You're afraid to let go because deep down, you don't know who you are without those chains. You're scared that your identity has become so diluted, so interwoven with outside expectations, that if you let it all go, there'd be nothing left. But this is the liberating, brutal truth Montaigne whispered centuries ago. It is only by shedding what you are not that you can finally see what you truly are. The freedom you crave lives on the other side of the fear that paralyzes you. It's not hidden in a self-help book. It's not locked inside a motivational seminar. It's here, in this exact moment, waiting for you to have the courage to look your life in the eye and say, I no longer need your approval. I no longer need to control the uncontrollable. I no longer need to pretend to be someone I'm not. So now tell me, Are you ready to let go? Or will you keep clinging to control, knowing that every day you do, you drift further from who you really are? This is only the beginning of a journey you may not want to take, but one you desperately need, and the decision is yours alone. Will you continue living inside a golden cage of your own design? Or will you take the terrifying leap into the unknown, toward a freedom that might scare you, but will finally make you feel alive? Welcome to the philosophy of detachment, to the pursuit of an inner freedom that will change everything you thought you knew about yourself. The path is unsettling, but I promise you this: the only thing more frightening than stepping into your freedom is staying exactly where you are. You've been taught to chase goals like they're the only thing that matters. But what if you discovered that many of those goals were never really yours? That much of your effort has gone into climbing ladders someone else built, never once asking yourself if you even wanted to reach the top. And now that you're up there, what do you see? The view of your dreams? Or just a distorted reflection of what someone else wanted you to become? We're obsessed with the idea of success, thinking it will finally bring us peace. But have you ever stopped to ask, success, according to whom? Maybe you've already achieved the milestones you were told would make you happy, got the right education, the respectable job, the appropriate relationships, and yet something still feels off. That uneasy feeling that stirs you awake at night? That's your real self, begging to be heard. Montaigne, in his voluntary isolation from the noise of the world, uncovered something radical and dangerous. True success looks nothing like what they sold you. It's not a social title. It's not a collection of possessions. It's not even public recognition. Real success, the kind few dare to pursue, is living in deep alignment with your true nature. But to do that, you have to know who you really are. Beyond the masks, beyond the expectations, beyond the version of yourself you perform every day. You've grown so used to pretending that you've forgotten how much effort it takes to maintain that illusion. And no matter how hard you try to suppress it, your mind rebels. There will always be something within you that resists, a whisper, a crack in the facade, a tremor of truth. Here's the uncomfortable but liberating truth. As long as you keep hiding behind roles and personas, you will never know peace. Stress, anxiety, and emptiness aren't random. They're the natural result of a life lived to please others. Now for the hard part, Montaigne understood it all too well. Most people prefer the security of an uncomfortable life over the risk of discovering who they truly are. They'd rather settle for crumbs of comfort than face the terrifying unknown of authenticity. And you? What about you? Will you risk meeting the real you? Or will you keep numbing yourself with the predictable rhythm of routine? Because yes, routine is a powerful anesthetic. It keeps you occupied, distracted, trapped in a loop that slowly dulls your will. But what you fail to see is that this supposed safety comes at an unbearable cost. The complete loss of your inner freedom. And freedom, true freedom, isn't about doing whatever you want whenever you want. It's something deeper, something far more courageous. Freedom is the strength to remain true to yourself, even when that means disappointing others, breaking patterns, and redefining everything you've been told to believe. Maybe now you're thinking, what if being authentic costs me everything I've worked for? But here's another paradox. If you need to fake it to keep it, then it was never truly yours. The relationships that matter, the projects that are real, the achievements worth holding on to, they don't fall apart when you become yourself. In fact, only by being real can you find what genuinely belongs in your life. You have far less to lose than you think, and infinitely more to gain than you imagine. But first, you have to take the leap. That leap into the unknown, into a life you don't fully control, but one that will finally be yours. This is the core of Montaigne's enduring message. Detachment doesn't mean abandoning what you love. It means understanding that only from a place of true freedom can you love deeply and live fully. When you build your life from anxiety, from fear, from a desperate grip on what you think you must preserve, you end up being possessed by your possessions, enslaved by your own protection mechanisms. Here is the message no one is telling you. Most people are terrified of losing what they have because they've never dared to imagine what might be waiting on the other side of that loss. They cling to relationships, to careers, to identities built for them, not by them. In doing so, they miss the moment their real life begins, the moment they stop holding on to what doesn't reflect who they are. So now the question becomes urgent. What will you do? Will you keep living on autopilot, afraid to look in the mirror, afraid to face the person hiding behind the carefully constructed image? Or will you finally find the courage to step beyond the edge, to let go of what is no longer true, and walk toward what might be? Because on the other side of fear is not emptiness. It's not a void. It's something breathtaking, a version of you unshackled from control, from approval, from doubt. A version of you that can finally breathe. This is the same path Montaigne walked from his silent tower, a path now laid out before you. Will you dare to take the first step? Or will you stay a spectator to your own existence? That answer, no matter how loud or quiet, belongs only to you. Only to you. You have far less to lose than you think, and infinitely more to gain than you imagine. But first, you have to take the leap. That leap into the unknown, into a life you don't fully control, but one that will finally be yours. This is the core of Montaigne's enduring message. Detachment doesn't mean abandoning what you love. It means understanding that only from a place of true freedom can you love deeply and live fully. When you build your life from anxiety, from fear, from a desperate grip on what you think you must preserve, you end up being possessed by your possessions, enslaved by your own protection mechanisms. Here is the message no one is telling you. Most people are terrified of losing what they have because they've never dared to imagine what might be waiting on the other side of that loss. They cling to relationships, to careers, to identities built for them, not by them. In doing so, they miss the moment their real life begins, the moment they stop holding on to what doesn't reflect who they are. So now the question becomes urgent. What will you do? Will you keep living on autopilot, afraid to look in the mirror, afraid to face the person hiding behind the carefully constructed image? Or will you finally find the courage to step beyond the edge, to let go of what is no longer true and walk toward what might be? Because on the other side of fear is not emptiness. It's not a void. It's something breathtaking, a version of you unshackled from control, from approval, from doubt. A version of you that can finally breathe. This is the same path Montaigne walked from his silent tower, a path now laid out before you. Will you dare to take the first step? Or will you stay a spectator to your own existence? That answer, no matter how loud or quiet, belongs only to you. Let's dive deeper into the nature of this leap, the psychological terrain of letting go. To let go is to interrupt a lifelong habit of gripping tightly. It's to recognize that control, as comforting as it feels, is often an illusion. A security blanket we've wrapped around ourselves since childhood. But if you trace the origin of that impulse, you'll find something fragile beneath it. Fear. The fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear of insignificance. We hold on because we're afraid that if we don't, we'll fall apart. But what if falling apart is exactly what needs to happen? Not in the sense of destruction, but in the sense of disassembly. What if the version of you that needs to come undone is the one constructed from fear, pressure, and pretense? What if the only way to find your center is to break the shell that was never really you to begin with? Letting go isn't passive. It's the most active, courageous thing you can do. It's deciding not to be ruled by outdated definitions of success. It's choosing not to live for someone else's approval. It's the bold act of redefining your story in real time. And stories, they matter more than we think. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, and what's possible shape the reality we experience. If you believe you're unworthy, every opportunity becomes a threat. If you believe your worth is tied to performance, every mistake becomes a crisis. But if you rewrite the story, if you step into a narrative where growth matters more than perfection and presence matters more than performance, everything begins to shift. Letting go also means releasing your grip on the past. The past is a heavy thing to carry, especially when it's filled with regret, betrayal, or missed chances. But here's the truth. You don't need to erase your history to be free from it. You just need to stop letting it define you. The pain that shaped you doesn't have to hold you forever. You're allowed to outgrow your old wounds. And what about the future? So much of our anxiety is rooted in trying to predict it, control it, mold it into something perfect. But what if the future is not something to be mastered, but something to be met? With openness, with curiosity, with trust. To live a life of letting go is to constantly return to the now. Not as a place of resignation, but as a place of power. Because here, in this moment, you are not your past. You are not your fears. You are not your mistakes. You are the awareness, choosing how to move forward. Let's talk about identity. We've all been given templates for who we're supposed to be. The good child, the responsible adult, the successful professional, the attractive partner. But who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when there's no one left to impress? Your true self lives underneath the performance. It's quiet, it's clear, and it's been waiting patiently for you to listen. When you let go, you make space for that self to emerge. You begin to live in alignment, not obligation. You begin to say no, not out of rebellion, but out of respect for your own boundaries. You begin to say yes, not to please, but to honor what feels real. And from that place, you begin to live, not survive, not perform. Live. Let's not pretend this is easy. Letting go often means grieving the life you thought you were supposed to have. It means grieving the version of yourself that others liked, but you didn't. It means walking away from certainty, comfort, and sometimes even connection. But grief is not the enemy. It's a rite of passage. On the other side of that grief is space, and in that space, you get to rebuild. You get to choose. You get to create not just a life that looks good, but a life that feels good. The process is messy. You will doubt. You will stumble. You will want to go back. But you'll also discover something you've never felt before. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. A confidence that doesn't need applause. A love that begins with yourself. This isn't about turning your back on the world. It's about turning toward it with truth. When you live from your center, you give others permission to do the same. When you stop performing, you become a mirror. And in your presence, people see what freedom can look like. This is what Montaigne knew, that the only approval worth having is the one that comes from within. That solitude isn't isolation. It's intimacy with the self. That the bravest act isn't to conquer the world, but to finally come home to yourself. So here you are. And the edge. You can cling to the familiar, or you can take the leap. If you leap, you might fall, but if you stay, you will never fly. And the sky has been waiting for you. Let go. Go.